That probably took a couple hours to set
Right,
that up.
the
So
display.
describe what it is, because
Okay,
it's
so we all know, if you're a car guy, you know Crass and Bernie from cartoons.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
We all love those articles.
Uh-huh.
George
Yeah.
Trosley would draw this, and there's always this bright, shiny, Bishan new hot rod.
Mm-hmm.
And all around it is all these bolts, nuts, wrenches, crap laying there. And that's really how it is.
exactly, and a
bet.
spilled paint can.
Spilled paint, spilled oil. That's all on our display, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And the great thing with that, so the displays in the past, as you clean the car every morning, you have to vacuum the carpet and get everything dusted. This one's great.
Yeah.
I mean, you finish a candy bar, you can throw the wrapper
That's
there,
it.
right? Because it looks right.
It just adds in.
Yeah,
More
and-
realism.
Yeah, and guys coming by go, you know, my garage looks just like this.
Hey, welcome to Car Guy Confessions, brought to you by ARP. I'm Jeff Smith. This is my car buddy Cam Benty and car builder Steve Strope, and we're going to tell you some stories.
Welcome to another episode of Car Guy Confessions with Jeff Smith, brought to you by our friends at arp-bolts.com. They do you probably got them on your car, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Cam Benty, and we have a special guest star here tonight, Doug
Jerger.
And with Squeeg's Customs.
That's correct.
Right? Okay. And you've got a car here at the show.
I do.
And so, what we should say first, where we're at. We're at the Grand National Roadster Show in Pomona. We want to thank John Buck and Kevin Doyle for helping us out with this whole thing. They set us up at this place. Man, the show is fantastic. You've
the
been out
best.
there for the last 2 days.
I've
Tons
been
of
here
people-
since Tuesday.
Since Tuesday.
Yeah,
Since
Wednesday
Tuesday.
they do the whole presentation with the AMBR cars, so I had to be here early.
Oh,
Nice.
okay. So you've been here a long time already.
Yes.
But huge crowds. The weather's fantastic. This is Chamber of Commerce kind of stuff here.
Yeah, we lucked out. We lucked out.
We
because
really
It's
did.
going to come
We
down
really did.
tomorrow, but we're good. Doesn't matter anymore.
That's tomorrow.
It's
for,
Sunday.
For right
It's
now,
Sunday.
we're having a good time.
right.
You bet.
So anyway, so we went. You have a car in the AMBR.
It's actually my customer's car.
It's your customer's car. Okay, but you guys built it.
Correct.
Okay.
And the great thing is he let us do everything we suggested. He was on board for.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that makes the build a lot easier.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you get a customer that's very wants a car a certain way, which you don't agree with, we won't do that.
Yeah.
They like when we have our input on the car. And,
Sure.
And we had a lot of input on this particular car.
What
So
kind of-
why don't
what
you
are we
describe the
talking
car
about?
for us?
Yeah.
So that
So
the
it's
readers
a 32 Ford Phaeton, Brookville made. So Chip Foose had designed this body style for Brookville, and
Okay.
it's a two-door Phaeton, and they wanted to use a lot of their parts they already have that their stamping dies that created, like the three-window and I believe Roadster pickup and that kind of thing. So what Chip had done had rendered this idea for a car that I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe they only made 32 of them.
Okay.
So what it is, it's a three-window door with the top of it cut off, made into a Roadster door. The rear section of the car is the rear of a Roadster pickup body,
Okay.
and then,
Okay.
of course, a deuce cowl from there forward, and the frame fenders, that kind of thing. So Ken Roadster is the gentleman's name that owns it, and Ken's a very familiar name because Chip Foose had built the Impression for him.
Okay.
That won Riddler and all these
Yeah.
super big awards.
Yeah.
And Chip had worked a lot with Ken. In fact, Ken was here last year for the Sloniker. He had a Nomad that Chip had done a lot of work on.
Okay.
So we'd been building this. So to start the construction of the car, Ken has his own shop in Colorado.
Okay.
And he employs, at the time, he had two guys doing work for him on his own cars. One of the gentlemen's name is Dennis Gaff. He's a great fabricator. He's worked with Chip on overhaul and a few other projects with Chip. The other kid was David Engel, who's a fabricator.
Okay.
And so when they started building this car, those two guys started suggesting to Ken, hey, why don't we have Doug at Squeeg's Customs paint the car? And I had just finished a Roadster for my dad. I'd built a Roadster, a 32 Roadster for my dad.
Okay.
And
Who's Squeeg?
Squeeg.
That's right. There we go.
That's my
Right.
father,
We're going to go to the legacy of that in a minute, but go ahead and
Yeah.
complete
So,
what you're thinking about.
I had shown the car here a couple of years ago, and then when they seen it, they talked to Ken and said, we need to paint this car candy red. So Ken agreed, and they reached out to me. I said, sure, I'll do the kind And then when I talked to Ken, he says, I really like your dad's car. My dad's car had big white walls with chrome reverse wheels and kind of a 60s look, no hood. He says, I really like that. I want to go with that style. I said, okay, we can do that. But when we got the project, so eventually they finished whatever fab work they needed to do, and it came to me. So I got a bare metal body and bare steel chassis with independent front and rear suspension.
Okay.
Well, a white wall car, that era, you don't have an independent or independent rear.
Right.
So I called Ken and I talked to him and I said, it might be smarter to go with a 70s era, because in the 70s, the two-door Phaetons, they ran a Jaguar independent and sometimes a Jaguar style front end.
Right.
But that's when independents started becoming popular.
Sure.
Also, chrome wire wheels, the true spoke. So I suggested chrome wire wheels. And then from there, he agreed and the project took off. He had got a hold of Brian Stupsky, who did the rendering artwork for it. And then everything I suggested, and he just went with it. And it became the car it is today. And we're very proud of it, very happy with it.
Yeah.
And like I said, Brookville, when we got it, there's a few things we didn't like. So the back of the body, being it's a Roadster pickup, it was very flat, very square.
Yeah.
So we did a ton of work on the back of it to crown and round the back of the car.
Okay.
So we did a lot of that. And then also we all burned the doors onto the dash. The guys at his shop had started that process, but we enhanced it, made it even better, and blended the dash into it. Anyhow, that was a lot of the metal work that we did before we did the body and paint.
Okay. So when you say Auburn the dash,
Right.
explain
So,
that.
are you guys familiar with Doan Spencer?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
if you
we
look
used
at the
to
Doan
work with him.
Spencer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to work with Doan. Yeah.
And
Okay,
very,
Doan-
very popular, very
Doan was
famous car.
very far ahead of his time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
bad.
Black Roadster, which is one of my top 5.
Yeah.
He had blended that door onto the dash, a nice big radius.
Okay. So
And
the
they
radius
call it
is ma-
Auburn because the Auburns,
The old
Well,
Auburns, yeah.
they're naturally that way.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
okay.
I
So
So
remember.
he had done that and created that, and kind of, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure he's one of the first, because
Okay.
that was that was in the 40s he did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyhow, that was a term. It
Yeah.
was Auburn, the doors.
Got a new
Okay.
verb. I was thinking
Yeah.
Auburn is a verb. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah. Auburn. It's Auburn. Okay, good.
So anyhow, we got the car in competition. Tomorrow's the final day, and honestly, I'm just excited. It's the last day, so I'm so exhausted. I mean, these last few months have just been brutal. You know, making sure
Getting the car
Oh
finished.
yeah. So it's candy red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, if you damage that, that's a bear to repair.
Oh
So
boy.
yeah, it was.
And
night
did that
and day.
happen?
We won't say that.
Let's not.
Okay.
And that's,
Let's put it this way.
That's too painful of a topic.
If you can't see anything, it looks
Doesn't
great.
matter. It's perfect.
It didn't happen.
exactly. So
Because
you
with-
you do paint. That's
I'm
what
the painter.
You're the
Well,
painter.
I have me and another guy that helps paint.
Okay.
Right, and actually, he helped me with that car. He had so the car has to be assembled to paint it candy.
Yes.
And Colin is
because
my-
it has to flow, right?
It has to
Right.
match.
Yeah, it has
you
to
can't
match.
panel paint. Well, you can,
Yeah.
but it won't match.
It won't
Yeah,
match.
right,
So
right.
it'll look like
Two different colors.
two different
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah, one more coat of candy will throw it way off.
Really?
Oh yeah. So candy obviously is a transparent. It's like a clear with a dye in it.
Right.
Much like the cellophane between, like in a folder, you know, and it has that red cellophane.
right.
And the more you stack them, the darker it gets.
The darker it gets.
Well, that's candy. It's a transparent. It's a clear with a little bit of color in it that you can see through. So whatever it's over, whether you could do all kinds of different colors of base or metallics and put the candy over it, it'd be all candy red but different shades.
Sure.
Okay.
So the difficulty with candy as you're painting it, if you don't get the overlap on your gun just right, it'll become dark streaks where it didn't overlap properly.
I've seen
I
that.
can see
And
that.
once that happens,
You're
you
done,
can't
right?
fix it.
You
Start
can't fix
over.
it.
no, you start
You
over.
just got to start over. You just gotta
Right,
sand
so
it
that's
all
why
back
it's so
down.
damn critical. But what I was getting at, we assembled the car, and my other painter sealed the car. We used all PPG products. He sealed the car, and he applied the metallic base, and then I came in and did the candy and all the artwork that's on the car, the ghost scallops and that
Okay.
kind of thing. So, and then finished it out.
Wow. So how many hours do you think or weeks do you have in the paint
You
shop?
know, I haven't looked.
Okay. Okay.
But I know it's thousands. I mean, we've had it for a few years. I mean, it's
Okay.
when you're sanding and buffing the entire frame, you know, it's
Yeah.
just
That's crazy,
endless
yeah.
amount of hours.
But that's a level of execution you have to have in order to compete here.
Absolutely.
At this,
I mean, it
this level.
certainly helps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the judging nowadays, it used to be ISCA style judging where they'd come in and, you got chrome plated this, we'll give you this so many points. And then they add the points at the end of the show.
Okay.
Whoever has the most points win, no matter how ugly the car is. And that
Okay.
became an issue. So in the past.
Because I remember that Baskerville would do some of those stories in Hot Rod, and I always thought growing up, maybe even before Baskerville, some of these cars are just like, this is the ugliest thing I've ever seen.
And
You
one
know, and
AMBR.
one AMBR, and it's like, I mean, clearly I'm missing something. But
Where's
that
the
was
aesthetics?
a different way of judging. Okay.
Yeah, that's ISCA. That was Hayne. You remember a guy by the name of Hayne Dominic? You remember Hayne?
No.
Hayne was there in Detroit, so I spent a bunch of time with
So
him.
now the judging is significantly different.
And there's a part of that story. So this is our 6th entry into AMBR. We've already won twice.
Okay.
And the first time was in 2011.
Wow.
Nice.
And so before 2011, it was all the ISCA point style judging.
Okay.
And we had shown in 2010, and there's some discrepancy between Chip Foose and this other Roadster. The Roadster, so one of the things is you have to be in the display and the car finished and out of the display by the time opening of Friday.
Okay.
Okay, so when we got our car done, we had an orange 32 with a Hemi at the time we were displaying. Chip had a Magnuson Roadster, and then this guy wasn't even there. So, and all of us talking were like, well, that guy's disqualified. He missed the deadline. Well, it was like 1, 2 o'clock, the guy showed up. And they set up, and then that's where, I mean, there's a lot of stories of what happened. But anyhow, the guy entered back into the competition and won it.
And won.
And the car was, in our opinion, should have won.
Okay.
So that's when Pete Shaporis from SoCal and Pete Jake stepped in and suggested to John Buck, hey, maybe we need to change up this judging. And Pete suggested we do it more like Pebble Beach, where it's the overall appearance of the car. You know, the title is America's Most Beautiful Roadster. It has to be a beautiful car.
Which makes it subjective at that point.
So they quit the whole points thing, and they bring in judges. So they aren't ISCA judges. What they are, they're builders.
They're builders. Yeah.
And so 2011 came around, and nobody knew they had changed the judging. So when 2011 came around, I generally like to bring something to the show, whether it's a Roadster or even another car, because this is the main show we go to. It is, in our opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, the best show in the country.
Okay.
If not the world.
Yeah. Wow.
For hot rods. I mean, that's
Great.
Yeah.
We
great.
firmly believe that. So we put all of our effort into this show. So in 2011, I needed something to bring, and the current projects we had, none of them were finished.
Okay.
So, but I had finished a Roadster back in 2008 for a gentleman, a good family friend. And when we finished the car, he loved the car. He never drove it. He put it in his hangar.
Okay.
So I called him. I said, his name was Daryl Wolfswinkle. I said, Daryl,
What's his name again?
Daryl Wolfswinkle.
Okay. You made that up, didn't you?
It was a made-up name, doesn't it sound like it? So he's out of Chandler area where I'm at, my shop is at. So, and he said, sure, you can take the car. So we brought the car. Well, I sent pictures to Buck, and Buck says, oh, we got to put it in for AMBR. I said, oh, okay. And I was just excited that was a contender. I mean, if you are one of the 12, or as of right now it's 9, one of any of them, you're just
That's
that's great.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, you've made it.
Sure.
You're one of the contenders.
Yeah.
That's awesome, right? So, and I'd shown my own car in 2008, and then in 2010 the orange Roadster I spoke of, and then now I brought this black 34 Roadster with a all aluminum Ford engine, and I could tell you that story where that car came from. My dad actually built it originally, and I redone it. And this is a big story with that.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I brought the car, and it had been finished, like I said, since 08. But the thing is, you can't show or debut a car if you bring it to AMBR.
Okay.
So, but this
Beforehand.
car, right.
But had
it
not
doesn't-
really been
Right, it
shown.
had been in a hangar.
Right.
Nobody even knew about it. I mean, we built it for that guy,
So
he
look
put it
new.
away.
Right.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
so it looked new. Right.
It looked brand new.
Yeah. As far as they were
So-
concerned, it was brand new.
It was. So we bring it in and we set it up. I used a display that we used the year before
Okay.
on another car. I mean, it was just a real simple piece of carpet, some railing. And so when we got to the show, I had the truck and trailer. They said, well, go ahead and pull in the building. And I pull in, and I noticed it was Shaporis and Bobby Alloway and Kugel and Tom Taylor and Brennan and all these guys.
Just some also rans. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nobody
I mean,
important.
they're
Nobody
all-
important. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Guys that,
The best guys.
right, when I grew up, this is the
Yeah.
guys you read about. And
Yes,
this
you
is,
bet.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, these guys are standing around. How cool I get to meet all these
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding.
So they said, well, go ahead and unload the car. And it was great. So it was just me and one of my guys because I couldn't afford to bring the whole damn shop. It's just, I work
Yeah.
in a real hot rod shop.
Yeah. Where are you based?
I'm in Chandler, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
And in a real hot rod shop, you don't make a lot of money. You make enough money to pay your bills, make a living, and hopefully support your own hot rod habit. That's it. But
Yeah.
you enjoy what you do.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's everything.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so we get the car, and it's this radical Hillborn stack injected 427 all aluminum Ford. It just
Okay.
sounds wicked good, right? So we open the door of the trailer, we untie it, and I jump in it, and I fire it off. And I'm letting it warm up, and I turn around and look, and there is a crowd around the back of that trailer.
It sounds like a drag race engine.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it was radical. So I backed it out in this whole big crowd, and Shaporis, Pete walks up, and he says, why don't you go ahead and drive it around here and then go ahead and park it there? So I did, and I drove it around. And I had, at this point, I still had no idea what was going on because
Okay.
I knew how they judged before, right?
You're
So-
assuming it's still the same.
Right, because
Yeah.
they didn't announce
They
it.
didn't announce it.
So I drive it around like you told me. And then here comes all these guys and I'm just in awe because, man, these guys I see off in the distance at a show and thought they were never approachable. You can't
Yeah.
talk to these guys. Well, they're all
Yeah.
interested in what I got
What
here.
you got,
So I'm
yeah.
like, I'm
Right.
cheesing
Yeah,
pretty
I know.
hard. Yeah, exactly. So they looked at the car and they were asking, well, can we see the engine? I opened the hood and they're making notes and I'm
You're
still a
wondering
little
what's going on.
confused.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, it's really cool. If these guys are all paying attention to one of my creations, this is great. In fact, one of them, I can't remember who it was, but it might have been Alloway. And I'd opened the door and I was showing them something and I shut the door and it has these really nice, at the time it was built, Bear Claw didn't exist, but I believe they were out of a Mercedes, these
Okay.
latches we made,
Okay.
or Dad had put in. And so I'd shut the door and it
Yeah,
sounded
nice,
beautiful.
nice sound. yeah.
Really nice.
That's one of my little things about it.
Oh, yeah.
A nice
So-
car.
Big deal.
I can't
Yeah.
remember who it was. They said, can you open the door again? I said, yeah, no, shut it. Click. He made note. And I'm like, wow, this is really cool. And they're like, well, and that's when they told me, well, we're judging a little different nowadays. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
And they said, and we'd planned on opening the door and all the shit they want, the deck lid open. And
Yeah.
somebody once said, oh, I hate when they have everything open. It looks like a whore and hustler. I said, yeah, it kind of does. I like it all shut. It looks like how the car is supposed to
How's the
look.
car is supposed to look.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So they told me, and I think it was Pete, because Pete was kind of heading the whole thing. He says, well, you're allowed to show it however you want. I said, you're kidding. Because I like it.
Closed
and my
up.
dad had always taught me, man, you need to have the door shut, the hood shut, to see the natural setting of this car.
Sure.
You
yeah.
bet.
Yeah.
I'm like, great. I said, I can leave everything shut. Yeah, I was excited. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, this is really cool. So we parked the car, and the way the hood was, a one-piece hood top, so we pulled one hood panel. And again, my dad had built this car once, years before, and I'd redone the car. Well, when he'd built it, he made these, the headlights to be able to detach.
Okay.
So if you wanted to go to a show, you unscrew these screws. It was really trick for the time. It was
Yeah.
early to mid 80s when he built it.
Okay.
So it's kind of, he had these aircraft plugs and shit. It was really
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
So we pulled the headlight off of the hood panel. I'm like, shit, let's pull the other one off. It looks great without headlights. Put the headlights in the trunk. Pulled the hood panel. We laid it down. Shut the hood top. So on one side, you get the whole profile.
Okay.
On the opposite side, you can see this beautiful 427 all aluminum Hillborn engine.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I walked away. Now, every morning when you're in the AMBR, and I didn't think I had a chance. I'm looking at all these just beautiful cars. And
Yeah.
these guys thinking when they showed up, they still have the ISCA judging, so they got chrome this, polish that.
Yeah.
I mean, over the top, wheels off, fucking way in the air, that kind of thing.
Right.
And here we are with this guy's, let it set the way it is. So Now, in AMBR, they let you early in the morning, like an hour early, to clean the car, get it ready for a display.
Sure.
Well, a lot of my guys came out, and we thought it was more important to drink beer that night rather than get up early.
You know, you got to have your priorities. You know.
Well, at that
It's-
time, that was priority.
Yeah.
We're not even in competition.
Right.
These cars are way
Right.
above us.
Right.
That's a really good story. But go
Yeah.
ahead, keep
So
going. Keep going.
all weekend, we didn't even dust it off.
Wow.
And you can, in this building, they'll get a layer of dust on
Oh, yeah,
overnight.
really easily. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so it was all night long. We were going to bars and
Having a good time.
having
right?
a good time.
We're here now.
I was single
All
at the time,
all
so I'm
thra-
like, hey,
yeah,
this is
all the
great.
thrash was over.
Right,
We can enjoy
2011
ourselves.
is like, well, we don't have a chance anyway. We got a good spot, and
Yeah.
and we're promoting. That's all we need. So it gets to Sunday, and there's this layer of dust over the whole car. And I've told this story in the past, and I'm sure people have heard it, but it's just so funny. So what they do, it's the very last award they give out. So
Okay.
it's late Sunday evening,
Mm-hmm.
and we're wore out from all weekend, you know.
Yeah.
We just want to pack up and go home.
Yep.
So a lot of my guys had already left. So now I just have this small handful of people. The owner of the car didn't even come. He's like, yeah, take it, have fun.
Have a good time.
Right. So I think I got 3 or 4 guys with me. Right. So they finally get to the AMBR award. They call all the builders up on stage, right? And they give you this participation plaque, the one of the 12 at the time. And
Yeah.
I was excited to get that.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
To be a contender. And so they give you this bag and this little plaque, and they said, okay, just stand here. So what I had learned, when they start giving off awards, there's several awards before they hit America's Most Beautiful Roadster.
Right.
Now, if you get any of those awards, best engine, best paint, best interior, outstanding detail, you didn't get the big one.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I'm going to get best paint at least. I know the paint job on it's dead straight black. It's beautiful. If not, it's a Gabe upholstery. It's got to get that. Obviously, the engine's killer.
The engine's killer. Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to go something.
yeah.
So all 12 of us lined up. And they call off, okay, best interior. And it goes this guy. I'm like, okay, well, probably get engine.
Yeah.
Best engine goes this guy. I'm like, okay, definitely paint. Best paint to this guy. I'm like, shit. So at this point, I'm standing there and I'm like, I stepped out and I was looking down and like, which one of these fucking guys got this award? And I feel someone bump against me and I turn around and it's the trophy girl.
Yeah.
And I look over here and another trophy girl and I went, boom, they announced it. My face dropped. And I'm in shock. In fact, Buck come to shake my hand. I dropped my plaque. I didn't know. I'm just in, what? And Buck's like, do you want to say anything? I'm like, oh, that's right. Yeah. So that was it. I mean, it was, and then it was just my little crowd of guys. Yeah. You know, usually it's like this big crowd of guys.
Sure, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just a handful of guys. Yeah. So we made it back to the car. I'm shaking. I'm
Yeah.
just
Oh, yeah.
completely thrilled that this even happened.
Yeah.
I called the owner and he's just beside
He's blown away.
Yeah.
I bet.
So that was my taste of winning, and I thought, holy shit, this is awesome. We got to go back.
Yeah. We got to do this again.
Yeah. So we did it again in 2020. We won in 2020 with a Kugel Muroc. You remember those?
Yeah.
Kugel built 10
Yeah.
for the high boys, and when we had one customer, another story where he had bought it. It was red. We done a lot of work on the car. He bought it from one of my customers.
Okay.
And he says, this guy, Monty, is from Canada. And he says, he hunted me down because I love your flames. I want your flames. And he's like, I want the car black, right? And Monty's kind of funny. So he comes in. At first, he wants it just painted in black. And then it snowballed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, we get it apart. Okay, I wanted it. He starts adding all this shit. And he I don't know if he's going to hear this, but some of his taste is very questionable, right?
Okay.
So I want the Ace of Spade taillight. I said, Monty, I'll do the car. I won't put taillights on it. But when it leaves, you can find a shop that will do Ace of Spade taillights. I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to do
So
that.
he had to
You
argue
get the
with it.
dice, huh?
Yeah.
Nice, eh? So anyhow, so I would argue with him on what to do.
Wow.
And then he bought these and it had these really nice, I believe they were Colorado Custom, 17-inch and 15-inch, like a 5-spoke, almost like an early American 5-spoke polished wheel.
Yes.
Really nice. When it was red, the thing sit, bitch, and the tires were right. Everything was right. Well, he decided that he wanted these big donkey wheels, those great big 22s and 20s and all this shit. And at this point, I'm like, I just want it out of here.
Right.
Donkey wheels. I like that. I gotta use that one.
So he was over here in California, and he went in to talk to Gabe about doing the upholstery.
Yeah.
I take that back. The car was there for upholstery, and it had them big, stupid wheels on it. In my opinion, if it's a hot rod and it's a high boy, the wheels need to be proportionate to the car.
Yes.
It isn't, well, I want 20s and 22s because they're big.
Yeah.
They look stupid.
They do.
Right?
Not
And I
good.
don't want anything to do with it. In fact, I thought, well, this car's going to Canada. I'll never see it.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's over at Gabe's, and Gabe's looking at the car, and we built this killer. One of the things he wanted, so the Murocs have this really bitchin', kind of a Duval style windshield, but it's curved, and Kugel had made them for these cars.
Okay.
And he says, and he's sitting in it, and we had to stretch the cockpit because he's a big fella.
Big guy.
Right, and he's sitting there, and he says, well, I stare right at that windshield
At that
frame.
front.
We need to raise it. I said, you want me to unchop the windshield? I said, do you know how ridiculous this is? No, I'm not going to unchop the windshield. Oh, no, we got to unchop. I mean, he's very persuasive.
Okay.
Back and forth. And finally, I came in one day. I said, you know what, fuck it. We'll unchop it, just whatever. He says, 2 inches. I said, okay, 2 inches. And he went back to Canada. I unchopped it 1 inch. And I told him 2. It was everything I could do.
Yeah, I bet.
But the way he did it, and I had a good friend of mine, Matt Tom, is an incredible metal crafter. And he built this aluminum top that looked like a 3-window top.
Okay.
With a chrome strip around it. And and actually, I hate to admit it, but it needed done so you can see once that top's done.
Sure.
But I ain't going to tell him. So, because it's
doesn't
just
need to know.
sacrilegious.
Need to know basis.
Right.
There you go.
So it's over at Gabe's, and he's talking to Gabe, and Gabe's looking at the car. You know, you ought to consider AMBR. What's that? So he starts telling Monty. Monty calls me. I want my car. I want you guys to take it to AMBR. I said, no, Monty. It's not going to go with them stupid wheels and all this.
Not unless it has the ace of spades on the tail.
So I kept going, no. Finally he calls me. I said, Monty, you really want to go to compete for AMBR? Yeah, I really do. I said, okay. If we're going to do it and you want me to do it, we have to do it my way. Well, what's your way? I said, well, first we have to get rid of the wheels, put the old wheels back on. And they're dead silent because they're a lot of money.
Yeah.
You think they're too big? Yeah, they're too big.
They're too big.
Okay. And then I said, we got to do this. We got to do this with the taillights. We got to do it. Okay, we'll do it your way. So we did it. Wow. And we did. So now we get it back, right? Pull the interior back out of it. Pull the body off the frame. Now we're going backwards.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because first we were just doing it so he could have what he wanted.
You bet.
Okay, you want AMBR?
Yeah.
Let's get after it.
That's a different ballgame altogether. Yeah.
So we tore it all apart, did a bunch of paint work. I flamed it, flamed the underside of the hood to match. And down to the wire, we get it all done, and we bring it in 2020, right? So this is just before the COVID shit. And
Yeah. Just barely.
I know.
Just
2021,
Well,
they
March.
canceled the show.
Yeah, March of 20. Yeah, sure.
So we come to the show, and Monty's kind of a loud guy, Canadian. I mean, he's like I said, he's
A
persuasive.
loud Canadian. You got the only one.
Yeah, right. So, and I'm very superstitious. Like if we're in competition, you don't say anything. You don't say, "Oh, I think we got to win." You don't say
you don't
shit.
talk about that. You'll jinx
You
it
just
for
be
sure. Yep.
right. Just be happy you're a contender.
You bet.
Just happy to be here. Part of the team.
Yep. And I told him that when we got here. Hey, don't spout off the mouth. Just be happy you're a contender. Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're in line, and Monty owns he's into cattle up in Canada. They show cattle and they auction these cattle. And
sure.
It's a big thing.
Is that in Calgary area?
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's into those big branches in that.
Yeah,
right?
it's beautiful up there.
So he's sitting there, and we're getting the car cleaned up. And nowadays, you got to get him in line. You pull in front of the curtain, and the judges look. And he's looking around. And he says, "You know, I think we have this." I said, "Monty, shut it. No, just shut it."
Yeah.
No, I know. I when I bring the cattle in, I know. I was like, "Monty, nothing."
These don't have 4 hooves.
Stick to your donkey wheels.
Right, yeah. You can put the donkey wheels back on when we're done. So, and Monty's a big guy, and he's crammed in the car, right?
Yeah.
And I said, "Monty, maybe it's a good idea I pull it forward, because that's one of the things they judge you on.
Oh,
When you pull up, if your head's above that windscreen, or if you're crammed up into the ceiling,
it's not good.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
yeah, it's no good." So he says, "You think so?" I said, "Yeah. Let me drive it up." Okay. So I pull it forward.
Wow.
And I'm sitting down at, the body's here at the shoulder. That's what they look for. You're down low in the car. And it's what the judging is. They pull you in. They said, "Okay, shut it off. Sit still." Okay. And you sit there and the judges are all looking. You just look forward. They make the notes. Okay. You can get out and show the car. So we open the door, get out, and I'm just explaining all the car. I had 2 guys on cue because the top's on it. And we just, the top fastens, but we left fasteners of it. And I gave them a nod. They came over, boop, lifted the top off. All the judges were like, "Whoa, this is cool." And so I thought it went really well.
Yeah.
You got to present the car like they
Sure.
do in Pebble Beach.
Yep.
So we go and we set up, and of course Monty the whole time, "I think we got this, And Monty, shut up. So one of the tricks I did, so I'd flame the car, and it's this really pretty orange to red flames. We used red interior that matched the flame. And I'd striped it in this powder blue, like a traditional flame. Well, before we came out, one of the tricks my dad did when he would show back in the 50s and 60s with his car, he had a Candy Apple Red 32. It was in May of 62 in Hot Rod. And they'd always take these colored lights, and they would experiment. They put a blue light and a red light, and they'd move them around the cars, and it would just look trick.
Sure,
right?
pop it.
Wow. Okay.
So, and Dad had always told me this story, so I thought, well, I'm going to screw around with some lighting. So before we left, I found this website that sells the stage lighting, and it's cool because you push this button and it changes different colors and hues.
Okay.
Nice.
So I'm like, well, and I was screwing with them, like, I think this will work. So we go to the show, and we got this display, and I mount them really low, and I put like a blue light on the tail of the flames and an amber light on the front,
Oh, that's cool.
and it made.
So it made it look like it went from hot to
Oh,
to
but
cold.
it looked like it was on. Like
Yeah.
it glowed. The blue glowed and the amber glowed.
I bet.
And it looked fantastic. And the lights were small and you couldn't see them.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember setting them up, and I'm really excited. This looks really bitchin'. And I remember one guy coming, he's looking at it, and he starts looking up in the ceiling and shit.
Where's that light coming from?
So anyhow, it got to the end, and we won that one too. So,
Nice.
so
You
yeah.
hung on to the plaque this time.
Pardon?
You hung on to the
Yeah, I
plaque.
did.
this time.
I did. I had learned. So.
Yeah.
There you go.
But so that was our experience on winning, and
Right.
it's a great feeling.
It's interesting that you describe it all that way, because I had never thought about the fact that there's a lot to the presentation of
Oh,
the
you
car.
bet.
It is.
Like just talking about the difference when you drive it as opposed to the owner driving it. It's like it makes a big difference from a proportionate standpoint.
Have you ever seen him? Have you ever seen him judge at Pebble Beach?
No.
Have you ever seen it?
I haven't, but I've heard.
It's crazy, and I mean, they do all of this. It's all the stuff that surrounds the bringing of the vehicle up on the stage and all the other stuff that goes on. But what's also interesting, and I thought was the most fun, is they'll have the judges at the end, and they will, the cars will be parked. They're parked on the lawn, parked on the golf course. And I went with the guys from Nethercutt. They just said, "Why don't you come up and do this whole thing?" I would never have been there otherwise. It's just that's those cars are crazy. But they do this deal where the judge with the trophy, he'll walk through the cars and he'll wander and you don't know where he's stopping.
Boy, the anticipation.
You have no idea.
During the award
This
presentation.
is the award presentation. He walks
It's like,
all
oh,
through
it
the car.
might be you, but it might not be
He
you.
does-
Watch him
he
walk
does
by,
ex-
you go,
That's exactly what he does.
It's like,
He's
like
like,
the judge comes
"Oh."
over, the beauty queen rides it this way. Get that
That's
way.
right.
What the
And
hell?
they walk all the way through it, and then all of a sudden they get
That's
to the
funny.
end, and they go, "You're the
Bingo.
winner now.
Oh,
You're the winner now." Which
Boy,
is
I bet everybody's shitting their
crazy.
pants. They walks by.
Yeah. And they do that. They often walk by the guy who's ultimately
Oh,
the
really? And
winner
they come
to
back.
fake him out. Oh my God!
Wow,
It's the
that'd be
funniest
crazy.
thing. But it's
This
crazy.
close to being a somebody.
That and the dog show. You just walk by
The
the,
dog
show.
show's that way, right?
That sounds a little bit like I had an opportunity. I did a story for Hot Rod where I got a chance to fly with the Thunderbirds in an F-16, right?
I think I remember that article.
Yeah, it was a great story. It's like ultimate hot rod ride. But one of the things we got to see, off from a distance, the pilot said, "You can't stand there with us, but you can, you're maybe 50 yards away, and we'll let you watch it from here." And I said, "Okay, what are you doing?" He says, "Well, it's all volunteer. The whole organization is volunteer, and all the enlisted men, they have to come in, they have to qualify, and they make them do all this stuff. Like the Thunderbird logo in the hangar is separated with a rope."
Wow.
A red rope thing, and they go in every day and they wax it.
Really?
Every day, right?
Wow.
And so they polish the airplane, they do
It's
all
like
these
you
things.
and the Chevelle.
Yeah, and so there was a situation where you have to go through this qualification process. You have to learn all these details about the Thunderbirds. So there's these 2 enlisted men that were going to be inducted into it. And the bottom line is they're basically going to be inducted into. They're going to be accepted.
Right.
But there's this last procedure where the squadron skipper has his Thunderbird logo, and there were like 2 or 3 of these guys standing there, and so he's asking them detailed questions about all this not inane stuff, but just
Sure.
arcane stuff about the Thunderbirds, and he's got the logo, the patch, and he's not gonna give it to you. So what he does is he'll fake these guys out. That's what made me think of it. And at one point he's asking questions and he'll just toss it. He'll toss it right here, and you have to catch it on your heart, right here. And it's like
So you got to be ready.
you got to be ready. So he'll do this like and there's all this noise going on. They're screaming at him, they're yelling at him, and everything. And you'll see it, and he'll toss it, and the guy will catch it. They just explode.
Yeah,
It's so
no
cool.
doubt.
So it sounds like the same kind of deal.
Yeah,
right, yeah,
So
sure.
that first time that you won the award,
Oh, yeah.
it was
very-
probably just like
Oh,
that.
yeah. Your mouth hits the floor.
Because you had all this time and effort into the car to make it, what it is, and then all of a sudden to say, "Oh,
Yeah, you certainly don't go in expecting anything.
Sure.
And that's
Yeah.
should be the attitude definitely going
Yep.
in.
But now being a 2-time winner, it's not only going to be good for your ego and everything that's going on, and also trying to think differently about what's going to catch their eye.
Yeah.
But also, it's got to be good for business.
That's more important to me. It's an ego thing. No, I'm very humble. I don't.
Sure.
In fact, a lot of these guys say I don't self-promote them enough. I don't. I try to. I'm
Sure.
very fortunate we get to work on cars for a living.
Yeah.
And so
We
to
always
be
felt
able-
that way about writing about
Yep,
cars. We get to
exactly.
write about
Yeah,
stuff, and
I
it's
mean,
like
I
we do
love
it for
going to
free.
work.
Yeah, exactly.
That's everything.
Yep.
You spend a majority of your life at work. So if the majority of your life
Yeah.
is what you love, it's
And
bet.
your presentation is different than everybody else's. Because I walked in, now you're right here in front of where we come in, so we walk by your car all the time.
Right.
And I was looking at it this morning because I thought, that probably took a couple hours to set
Right,
that up.
the
So
display.
describe what it is, because
okay.
it's
So we all know if you're a car guy, you know Crass and Bernie from cartoons.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
We all love those articles. George
Yeah.
Trosley would draw this, and there's always this bright, shiny, Bishan new hot rod, and all around it is all these bolts, nuts, wrenches, crap laying there, and that's really how it is.
exactly, and a
bet.
spilled paint can.
Spilled paint, spilled oil, that's all on our display, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
And the great thing with that, so the displays in the past, as you clean the car every morning, you had to vacuum the carpet and get everything dusted. This one's great.
Yeah.
I mean, you finish a candy bar, you can throw the wrapper
That's
there,
right.
right? Because it looks right.
It just adds in.
Yeah,
More
and-
realism.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and guys coming by go, my garage looks just like this. And they're right. And if you build a car,
absolutely.
that's how it is.
Sure.
Now it's at epic proportion.
oh, yeah,
You go
absolutely.
look at that J2000 and it's mind scattering.
epic.
Stainless
Oh,
frame
not
cage.
cage, the whole
sent-
The whole
chassis.
thing's all stainless.
He sent me a picture that his
And go
wife
look,
took.
there's not one
it's beautiful.
bubble in the welds are
No,
all
no.
smooth. It's
So he
unbelievable.
ground it all all down, polished it, and after about a day and a half of doing this straight through to get it finished, his wife took a picture of him. He looked like somebody from the moon, like an alien. He was just whacked out. His eyes were this big, and he was just like, just got to get it done.
Incredible that they're at home.
Yeah.
And then when he finishes that card, he's going to build this thing to go around the world.
Oh yeah,
the
the
tank thing,
Earth orbiter. No,
the orbiter, whatever.
Surface orbiter.
Yeah.
Surface orbiter.
He's going to go in the ocean.
I heard
he's going to go all over the world. With this thing, right?
I heard the dog left though. I heard they got up on a beach and the
He
dog.
told me the story. It's just, and the crazy part about it is I have to
All of
cross
it, a way to connect to what was going on and what the vibe was and what was new and what was hip and what was cool. And the pages took what was obviously like that car stands on its own. It never needed to be in a magazine. It's insanity. You're looking at photos of it. It's like, it's superstar. And same with Scotty, and Matt and Debbie, and all that, and Rick, Mark Grimes, and Dobbert, and everybody.
All those guys.
So you made them. Actually, their hard work made them the superstar, but you were a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
You took what was done in.
Yeah,
bet.
I thought that was very innovative.
One thing happened, it was funny, we were just set that up, and a guy comes by, he says, look, I know this is your display, but I lost a 1/4-20 nut on my alternator. Would you happen to have when we looked around? Well, here you go.
That's great.
That's hilarious.
So
That's funny. That's funny.
yeah, so the owner, Ken Dennis, that's his right-hand guy that does all the work. He created this. He'd worked on it for a whole year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I've been talking to him, and when it came together, I thought it was a most
I
killer.
was trying to figure out something in the back of my head says I've seen this before,
Yes.
and I couldn't put it together until you said Trosley.
Yes.
And
Trosley,
Crash and Bernie, it's
absolutely.
like, of course.
Those
That's
are the guys.
exactly what this is.
Those are the guys.
Yeah, and they're always
everybody
working that
gets
barn,
it.
and it's always
Oh,
midnight.
yeah.
They're always thrashing. I go,
And the
"Do
car's
these guys
all
ever
bright and
sleep?"
shiny.
Yeah.
So yeah, it worked out, and everybody loves the display.
Oh,
I
yeah.
just think
Yeah.
it's hilarious. So
It's perfect.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Yep. We put the Crosley or his cartoons back in Carcraft.
Oh,
right
really?
Right before I left the magazine in 2014, that for like 4 or 5 years,
Yeah.
and
I've
and
always
quickly,
enjoyed his work.
when Doug Ladd, there was Doug Ladd's idea, and he said, "What do you think about that?" And I went, Carcraft is kind of irreverent, because at first my first reaction was no. But then the more I thought about it, it's like, no, this magazine's very irreverent, right? It always has been since
Supposed to
basically
be.
the Terry
Supposed
Cook
to be.
days.
Yeah, supposed to be.
the Terry Cook days, which was when I started reading the magazine. So I thought, the more I thought about it, it's like, this could work. It became, so when we're putting the magazine together,
Right.
It was always my favorite page to read.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
2 pages, it was Crass
You
and
bet.
Bernie.
Yeah.
And so it was just great stuff. So
That's
yeah.
big
so when I
typing.
walked in, I thought, this is cool. This is cool. And the more I looked at it, I go, some of the back of my brain's going, I've seen this before somewhere.
You bet.
This is not the first time you've seen this. It's like, what is it? I couldn't put it together till you said Trosley.
No, it
as soon as
worked
you
good.
said that, I was like, oh boy, that's what it is. Yeah, that's very cool.
Very
yeah.
Nice.
So how long did it take to set that up the first time?
The display.
The display.
That was really easy.
Really?
Yeah, and the
You just-
great thing is, one of my guys was helping. He's throwing all those bolts and nuts and wrenches and shit down and setting it all, because he had worked on it for a whole year. He'd set
Okay.
it up several times. My guy worked getting everything, and I know at the end of the weekend we got to clean all this shit up. He says, real nice, Dennis, looks really great, but how the hell are we going to clean all this up? And he reaches over, he has this
magnet thing?
Yeah. Magnet with a roller. He says, well, he's like, I'm old. I know how. So he just scrape into a box and deal with it later. I'm like, man,
That's
this
great.
is
I like it.
That's the way to finish this thing, right
There we
there.
go.
That's the way to
Absolutely.
finish this thing. Excellent discussion. I mean, this is
Yes.
I learned so
Yeah.
much
Yeah, it's very
because
nice to meet you.
had
Very nice
no
to meet you.
idea how much the presentation makes
It's
a
everything.
difference.
Oh,
And if
yeah,
you get
absolutely.
a chance, go back since 2011 and look. They have the side views of all these roadsters, and take note of the people sitting in the car.
Okay.
Because you'll see a lot of them where their heads are above the
windshield?
windscreen. Look at it, and you'll know.
That kills it, right?
That is everything.
Okay.
And I knew that from the beginning, so it
Okay.
helps.
And it's
Absolutely.
like the illustrations you see when the illustrators illustrate the car. The guy's always really
Down low,
in the
low,
car,
yeah.
right?
That's
Okay.
how it's supposed to be.
Definitely a look. Well, good.
We could probably do this for another hour.
Yeah.
But we have time constraints. So thank you so much for walking. We want to help. We want to acknowledge ARP-bolts.com as our sponsors, and of course the guys at the Roadster
National.
Show here where we are. This is a wonderful venue,
Yep.
and we get a chance to meet all you great guys, all you car builders and stuff. So and if you like what you're seeing, keep watching because we'll keep telling you stories.